Welcome to RotoGrinders Today. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. BlenderHD, BlenderHD. You're going to follow me on Twitter. And it's Thursday, August 15th, and we'll be taking a look at the early four-game MLB DFS slate for today. Hit that thumbs up button on your way in the door. You know very much how you like the thummy thumbs here in the morning. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. We'll get crunch time right after us at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. So you want a more detailed breakdown? Maybe not that much detailed. We've got some starting lineups coming in for this early slate. There's a three-game late slate today. A very quiet day for baseball on a Thursday as usual. So crunch time's at 12:30 p.m. Eastern on the YouTube channel with Kevin Roth with the weather update, which I don't think really there is much. So I don't think we have to worry that much about weather. But if it's a quiet day on a Thursday, that typically means that I'm joined by Chief Justice Will Priester, proprietor of Chiefs Prop Shop in our Discord. Join that, rotogrinders.com/Discord. It's free. It's free. You could do that for free. So, Will, quiet Thursday. It's a quiet, soon, couple of weeks. Thursdays will not only be quiet, a little bit quiet for baseball, but we'll also have some horrible Thursday football games also.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you and I are going to be doing Showdown this year together. I know we've done it together in the past. I know me and TJ, I kind of did Sundays last year. I think Cards may have been on the Thursday slate, so we'll see. But I'm sure we will cross paths several times during the football season as we do. And while it may be horrible, Blender, you know what keeps us coming back? The prize pools are always good for these things. So we're just trying to not split it with 1,000 people and see if we can bank the big one and get unique. But that will be good for Thursday because we'll have more props available. Those, I love tackle props and, now they kind of give us tackle props and all these boutique props, Blender, almost every slate now. So we used to kind of have to wait until the Super Bowl, but now they're starting to give us some of these unique ones like targets and receptions and stuff like that. So I'm excited about it. It should be really fun. And Blender, let me tell you a little secret. I actually like second half NFL props more than full game NFL props because I literally just take the game script and say, okay, this team's down, this team is up. This team's probably going to run the ball a little bit more. This team should be throwing a little bit. And typically, Blender, it works out fairly well. Now, when I say fairly well, I'm saying, you put, out of a couple slates, like you're probably going to hit a 25X or two. So it typically works out. So I'm excited, man. Football brings a lot of action into the DFS and prop world. So and college football, Blender, is coming up soon. So, I mean, we're just going to have a convergence of a lot of sports, and it's August. Blender, don't look now. NBA's back in October. So in October, I mean, it's just and hockey. It's just going to be.
That's what I'm looking for more to hockey than because I got into hockey, DFS hockey, NHL last season and props last season, and I did quite well. College football props did quite well also.
Yeah.
So this is the calm before the storm.
Yeah.
But there's no storm today in baseball. So there's no weather to worry
literally
about.
Or figuratively.
Right. But we got 4 games. It's not a great slate for offense. The Mets have the highest implied team total at 4.85. This Braves-Giants game has a grand total of 7. We've got some pitchers on the slate. I mean, I think most of the pitchers on the slate are viable, at least, if not, good. I think it's highlighted by a 10K Jack Flaherty against Milwaukee. Logan, and then the 2 pitchers in the Braves Giants game, Max Fried and Logan Webb. These are probably going to be the 3 most owned pitchers on the slate on DraftKings, where you have to play 2 pitchers. So, I mean, obviously, from a strikeout perspective, I prefer Flaherty against Milwaukee. But I'm a Max Fried guy. I typically play Max Fried more than the field does. I'm fine with this matchup against San Francisco, the lefty, and ballpark upgrade for him. I mean, I'm fine with Logan Webb against Atlanta, but I mean, Robbie Ray. The Robbie Ray rule was in full effect yesterday. right? Whenever he's chalked, just don't bother. Just don't even bother. So I don't know if that burned you, but for today's
Oh, it
slate,
did. Blender, it just
can you
killed my prop game, by the way. Killed me because I took him over strikeouts. And some of them, he was my last leg, so was not pretty.
So between Flaherty, Fried, and Webb, obviously we could find some cheap value bets to fit two of these guys in. But how would you rank them, price considered and ownership considered? I'm assuming the ownership's going to be Flaherty 1, Webb 2, Fried 3. And that's kind of the projection order in as well. But according to the Bat, they don't project all that differently. Flaherty's at 20, Webb's at and Fried's almost at 19, Webb's like 18.6. So they're close enough. What say you as far as, if you only had to play one of these guys, how would you rank them from 1 to 3, ownership considered?
Man, I didn't expect this to be as tough of a question because I think they're all viable.
And now, let's go by first. If ownership wasn't in a consideration, Flaherty would be the obvious one, right? If ownership and salary didn't matter, right? A 10K, a 45 to 50% on Flaherty would be number one. So it really comes down to how much more owned do you think Flaherty will be compared to Fried and Webb to make it, if they're going to be similarly owned, I'd just rather play Flaherty. If Flaherty is going to be mega owned, twice as owned as Max Fried, I'd rather play Max Fried.
I don't
and we still got some other pitchers on the slate that are viable that we could even pair if we don't play two of these three.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be twice owned as Max Fried because Max Fried at 8K is what's going to help his ownership. You get what I'm saying? Like that $2,000 discount, in my opinion, is what's going to help Max Fried get there. I know you didn't ask me this, Blender, but let me say it this way. I think Bryce Miller might actually be the best tournament pitcher on the slate, despite his shorter leash than these guys. And I actually thought he might have gotten a little bump, but the matchup that he's facing today, like this lineup is even worse than what we thought it was going to be when we started the day out. And so while Bryce Miller, listen, he's not Flaherty, has nowhere near the leash of a Webb or a Fried, I think his upside is increased because they've really infused several high K bats here, Blender. And not only do they have high strikeouts, they don't have enough power. So like Andy Ibanez here, 36%, but dude, 32%.
You're not scared of Dylan Dingler batting cleanup?
No. Listen, and he's got more power than most of the other guys, but a 28% K rate, not going to walk a ton. My point is this lineup came out and it's a lot worse than what we even thought it was going to be. So I have a ton of interest in Miller today for tournaments, and Blender, he's only projected for like 23% ownership, which is lower than everybody. And on this small of a slate, if I can get that kind of leverage from a guy that I think has close to enough upside as these others, I'd like to take it. But the projection says he's not going to be great. But I think he outperforms the projection today.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about stacks also. I'm maybe a little bit higher on the Tigers as a vomit stack today than maybe you are, but I think I like this spot. I like the Bryce Miller Tiger spot on both sides. It could go both ways. I think that's the high variance spot of the day. But how about a guy like Jose Quintana against Oakland? I'm never a Quintana guy. Typically play him much less than the field. But
I think you just play this.
He has a similar strikeout prop to Miller and Webb and whatever. He's 7,200. In Citi Field, Oakland has a 3.65 implied run total, which is less than the Tigers.
I get it. I'm not a Quintana guy either.
I'm not a big fan of playing lefties against Oakland, though.
Yeah, I'm not a Quintana guy either, Blender. I actually took his under fantasy point prop today. It got up to 31.5 on Underdog. So I took less than that projection personally. And then also, if you verify that via the bat projection, I think the bat had somewhere, I don't know, 25, 22, somewhere up in there. It's not high. But additionally, Blender, I think if you're going to play Quintana, you just pay the extra $800 and get Max Fried. The ownership isn't that much of a difference to me for it to matter.
What happens if you're spending up for a stack and you're playing Quintana and Fried?
I mean, that's going to be very different. Like Blender, honestly, that's incredible leverage on this slate because you're getting what we perceive to be the lowest owned pitcher out of Flaherty, Webb, and Fried. He's projected to be the lowest owned. And then you're getting Quintana when we know the chalk pairing is probably going to be Flaherty, Webb, Flaherty, Fried. Like I think that's what we feel like the chalk pairing is, one of those.
How else are you going to pay
I like
a Dodgers stack or a Mets stack without playing like?
I'm okay with that because that's going to give you your lineups will be so much different. And if both of these guys happen to have, so Blender, they might not even have to have like nuke games, if you will. Like if Flaherty ends at like 20-ish, 22 fantasy points, and both of these guys end at 18, and the stats go off, you win. Like that, because you're going to have so much extra salary for the good bats. So I'm perfectly fine with that.
Mitch Spence against the Mets and Tobias Myers against the Dodgers. It's a 4-game slate, so I can't say that they're like not viable. But if this was a bigger slate, I would, these would be like crossouts. Obviously, Alex Faedo or whatever happens with the Tigers situation. The Tigers it's a bullpen game, right? Is Kenta Maeda going to play out of the bullpen? Who knows? So just don't even worry about the Tigers, right? The Tigers pitching, who cares, right? But Spence and Myers, obviously the Mets and the Dodgers have two of the higher team totals on the slate. I guess I'd rather play Mitch Spence at 6,500 than Tobias Myers against the Dodgers. But I still put these in the C, but like they automatically go in the C bucket of like, you're not crazy for playing them, but I'm not. The large field, you could do it, I guess. Depending on how long do you think the Mets are as a stack, maybe you could play Spence. I don't think this is going to be a high-scoring slate. So I think that even if you're stacked, like the team, if a team scores 6 runs today, I think that's the winning team. I mean, like that's like I don't think you're going to have to find like an 8-run, 10-run, 12-run type of team. And it's quite possible that 4 of these pitchers put up enough points that you get like 40 total, right? 38 total at pitcher. I'm not going out of my way to, try to get leverage at pitcher on a 4-game slate.
Yeah, I'm not either outside of maybe Miller, but that's because it feels like, and when I say he's the lower owned, like he's projected for 23%. So it's not like he's projected for like 8. He's just the lower owned of the 8K guys. So I wanted to highlight him. But yeah, I mean, I still think the bats make this slate, and not in terms of a bunch of runs like you said, Blender, but because I think some combination of Flaherty, Webb, Fried, Miller, Flaherty, Miller, Webb, like Quintana, Webb. So one of those combinations, I think we feel like is like the winning combination for pitcher. And in fact, they could all be, like you said, Blender, close to the same thing. Like any of these combinations could get you 40 points. And then it's up to the bats. And I think that's, in terms of this slate, I honestly feel like you could just get rid of Meyer, Spence, obviously not playing Faedo, And you can probably just roll with, Flaherty, Webb, Miller, Free, Quintana, and set you some exposures if you so choose. If I was playing just one, listen, we do have a question from Boney SP. He said, if I was playing, do I like Miller for FanDuel single entry? I do. I absolutely do. So there you have it. I do like that. But yeah, so that's kind of it. I mean, the problem is not problem. He's 9,100. Freed is 86, so you get a little bit of a discount for Freed. But I do like Miller kind of being sandwiched in between. I think he'll probably have less ownership on FanDuel than he would on DraftKings. So I'm fine with it. All right, Blender, back over to you.
Okay, let's go to the stacks.
Oh, yes.
ABC, DNF, as always. We're going to have to put, I know it's a small slate, so it's 8. I don't want to be, cop out and we put everyone in the middle, like a lot of times where nothing stands out dramatically. So we're going to have to put at least one team in the A tier and one team in the F tier, right? Even though there's 8 teams on the slate, you're not crazy for playing any of them, right? Literally any of them. It's a four game, right? Large field, you want to get different. I mean, you can't just, have your lowest owned player be 22% owned. Like, you're not winning GPPs that way. So, obviously, as ownership goes up on the stack, they may go down in the rankings. And as the ownership goes down, they may go up in the rankings. And obviously, you can play one-offs from any team. Doesn't matter where they are. So this is just 5-man stacks on DraftKings. The differences between the teams on this, from the top team and the bottom team, is 8 points in projection. Okay, so not like dramatic. I mean, enough so, but not absurd. The top team on the slate, according to the bat, considering price, I think I'm not even sure if there's going to be the highest owned team on the slate, but price-wise, it's going to be the Seattle Mariners against the Tigers bullpen, which is not good. They're cheap enough to stack. You could play Flaherty, Freed in your lineups. I'm putting Seattle in the B tier because I think they end up actually over-owned for a 4-game slate, and it's the Mariners, and the Mariners are like not a good team. They're like not an awful team, but I typically don't want to play like subpar teams at high ownership, especially on a 4-game slate, because it's primarily just a price thing. I mean, they project the highest because they have a 4-point-something implied run total. But it's like, if you take a look at their lineup, I mean, Robles, Polanco, Calarali, you could fit in Justin Turner. It's easy to play. It's easy to play this stack, right? You have Raley at first base. You get a catcher. Expensive catcher, but Polanco at 4,100 at second base. Like, it's easy to play these guys. You can play Dylan Moore at third or at shortstop. So I think they're going to end up, if you use lineup HQ tool, you're going to get a lot of the Mariners as one-offs also. So although from a raw projection standpoint in the bat, they are the highest team on the slate, I do think they're going to be over-owned. And I think the teams that are actually going to be under-owned, I think the Mets are going to be the highest owned team on the slate. And I think the Dodgers actually end up being lower owned than you think, just simply due to price. Because I think people are going to prioritize playing Flaherty or a Webb Freed lineup, which if you still try to build a Dodger stack, it's going to get pretty damn tough for you because, I mean, the bottom of it, sure. You could play a Kiki Hernandez or a Kiermaier, and Lux helps you out at second base. But boy, if you're trying to get in like Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, like, good luck to you. I mean, you ain't. I don't know how you playing Flaherty in that type of lineup. So I'm putting. I don't know. I feel like these ownership numbers on the Dodgers almost feel like these are like one-off ownership numbers. Like people will play the Mariners plus Flaherty, and then they'll have like Ohtani, one-off. Betts, one-off. Freeman, one-off. Will Smith, one-off. So like, yeah, they'll be owned, but combinatorically, like as a stack, I can't see people playing them without like playing Bryce. You have to play Bryce Miller, Fried, Quintana. You really can't play a 10K pitcher in those types of lineups. So, Will, what do you think about the Mariners, the Dodgers, and the Mets?
I agree with these, and I do think the A tier in terms of the stack. Like even when you look at the stack overall, like Mookie Betts is right now in terms of RG projections projected for 19%. That's pretty low for a small slate where he's probably the actual best shortstop outfielder play, like one of them. So I agree with you here. I definitely think the Dodgers are a top stack on the day. I definitely think they go in the A tier. The Mets, I agree there also. I mean, they're getting hefty ownership projections, Blender, up and down their lineup. And I'm talking about, 1 through 7. So it's not like they're like top heavy at 1, 2, and 3. And then everybody under that is like 10, 8, 7. I mean, pretty much 1 through 7 is, 12% or higher. So that suggests to me that they're going to have a lot of ownership. And then I also agree with you on Seattle. Like I said, just looking at this ownership, they're looking like they're going to be fairly high owned as well. And I agree with these rankings because the Dodgers are not high owned, or very expensive, which is going to bring the overall stack ownership down. So you're not going to be able to fully stack them the way you would like on this slate. So I definitely agree. If you're getting to the Dodgers, full stacks, like especially if you find a way to play Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman, Blender, you're probably doing something wonky like trying to get Quintana, which is just automatically going to make you different on this slate. And then in terms of Seattle being in the B spot, I think the cost of admission is definitely worth it because they're so cheap overall as a stack. I think you can get there. So I agree.
Another team that is worth the cost of admission, and this is how you play the Dodgers stack. I know you like Bryce Miller, but the Tigers are cheap. And I think more people will play Bryce Miller than the Tigers today. I'm putting the Tigers in the B tier because of just lineup construction and ownership. I mean, if you're playing expensive Dodgers, you could play, a Colt Keith at second base. You could do a 5-man Tigers, 3-man Dodgers with 3 good Dodgers. And then you probably still can't get Freeman, but you're close. You got to get Flaherty, but you're close. Or you can play a 5-man Tigers with 2 decent Dodgers, 2 of the big Dodgers, and still play Flaherty in your lineup. Obviously, the Tigers are not good, but they are cheap. Dylan Dingler is 2,700, and Justin Henry Malloy is batting the leadoff at 3K. Like Carpenter's the only guy that's like expensive at 4,300. He's probably the best hitter in their lineup now. But at these prices, I mean, if something goes wrong with Bryce Miller, the Seattle bullpen, it's a 4-game slate. I mean, why not take? I mean, if this was a 10-game slate, I wouldn't be talking about the Tigers. But on a 4-game slate, just due to price, they don't project that much differently. I mean, they project like 3 points lower than the Mets. 3 points. That's it. So, the range between the top team and the bottom team is 8 points. I'm not going to Tigers as if they're like an F-tier team. Like, no, I don't think people want to play the Tigers. And if I want to play the Dodgers stack, I'm going to need to find cheap pieces, and the Tigers have them.
Yeah, I'm not as high on the Dodgers. I'd probably have them middle of the pack rather than the B tier. But
you're talking about the Tigers. The Tigers.
Correct.
Right, you're more on Bryce Miller. Okay, we made it clear that you're more on getting different by playing Bryce Miller, and I'm trying to find a way that I could still play Flaherty and get different by playing the Tigers.
Well, as of right now, I do still have Flaherty, or at least I think I will by the time we're by the time I get to lock. So, but yeah, I'm not as high on the Tigers offense today. They'd be C tier, borderline D tier for me, but I get it.
Another offense, facing not the greatest of pitchers is the Oakland A's against Quintana. I don't believe we're going to get Brent Rooker back, but I don't mind. I don't mind both sides of the play. It's not. Jose Quintana is not like a lefty killer. I don't really care. Not big into the ballpark. I think that the total is low, but they're cheap enough. Like, I don't view them as a stack. I view them as do I need someone to fill out my lineup? And there you go. Zach Geloff is 3,400. Like it's a one-off. I need to find, a cheap third baseman. There's Tyler Nevin. I need to find, I don't know if I'm playing Shea Langoliers at 4,500, but it just feels like the A's are more inclined. I'm more inclined to Darryl Hernandez is min-priced. There you go. This is how I afford other people. Like, it's like one more one-offs than a full stack. Like, I prefer the Tigers as a full stack than the A's as a full stack. So for me, I'm putting the A's in the D tier. But I'm assuming that do you like the A's more than the Tigers today?
Oh, big time. Way more A's than Tigers.
And nothing to add to that. Just.
Well, I think so. I don't trust Quintana long term. He's been much better, like down the stretch. But I think the A's have enough power bats and enough lower strikeout bats to balance out the attack here. I look at a guy like JJ Bleday, while it's lefty, fairly low Ks, and Quintana's been lower to lefties than he has to righties. And over the course of the season, has given up more power to lefties than to righties. So a little bit reverse splits this season. Dash Cameron here, 424 ISO. Now that's in 41 plate appearances. Then Miguel Andujar, 140 ISO, but only a 10% K rate on the season. Like, I think this team is a lot more interesting than maybe what people will look at today. So I like this team quite a bit.
Last three teams on the slate are the three teams that are facing the higher owned pitchers. We got the Brewers against Flaherty. We got the Braves against Webb. We got the Giants against Max Fried. I would put, if up to me, obviously, even though TJ is not producing, the Giants are always in the F tier because never the Giants. Against Max Fried, I'd rank them last. These also, the thing about the Brewers, the Braves, and the Giants is that these stacks are not cheap. Even like, it's not like you're playing people. You're playing stacks against good pitchers, and you're not even really getting a discount. If anything, Jack Flaherty is going to be 50% owned. I'll put the Brewers in the D tier. It's a 4-game slate. The leverage is worth it on a 4-game slate. And I probably could say the same about maybe the Braves, also against Logan Webb. I'd rather play the Braves than the Giants, but I wouldn't be. If you want to put the Braves also in the F tier, I wouldn't mind. But I like, on these small slates, I like keeping to a 1A tier team and 1 F tier team. So I think I'd just leave the Giants there. But I'm not rushing to like, oh yeah, this is a perfect day to stack the Brewers against Flaherty. They're in the D tier for a reason. That my D tier typically means you're not crazy for doing it, but I'm not.
Yeah, I don't plan to play the Brewers. So hopefully on this small slate, guys don't run out here and just light the world on fire. You know what I mean? I like Flaherty a great deal. I just think even if the strikeouts aren't there today, Blender, I just think he's been so good not walking guys, limiting power, being able to get through innings, has a nice long leash. If he's efficient today, should go 6 innings. And I know that's been He's picked up a lot more strikeouts lately, which in my opinion has kind of cut down on his ability to get through the amount of innings that maybe we're accustomed to. But I'm okay with that because if he picks up 10 strikeouts and doesn't get blown up, then he's probably our leading fantasy point getter on the slate. So I think balancing all that out, I agree with you. I can't play the Brewers today.
Okay, so between me and you, we're playing a single entry, 3 max, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm as of right now gonna be playing Dodgers Tigers with Max Fried and baby Flaherty, Fried, Dodgers Tigers, and it looks like for you, you're much more likely to play Bryce Miller and the A's, like you're like the Bryce Miller, the A's, and the Mariners, or I mean, what does your lineup look like?
I think I'm going to be able to get Mariners Dodgers mini stack. Flaherty Miller.
Okay, but no A's.
I mean, yeah. Sorry, the A's are the reason I can do it. Sorry. Yeah. So Miller A's. If I come off Flaherty, I'm probably going to Webb or Fried, obviously, and that would be me trying to make sure I got every expensive Dodgers bat, or the big three, if you will. That means if I come off Flaherty, that means I'm trying to get Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman,
right.
And then let the rest of the chips fall where they may.
Right, but I think we're both on the same page that the Dodgers may actually go. I'd rather play the Dodgers than the Mets today, just due to ownership.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any?
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. I think the problem is, it is so weird, Blender, but the early games, and look, we've only got like an hour gap today, so this isn't as relevant as like if we had one at 7 and one at 10, but it still holds true to a certain degree. That instant gratification of those early games, they just tend to get more ownership when there's a bad pitcher on the slate. You know what I mean? So like, today with the Mets, obviously you got Mitch Spence.
The same thing for Seattle. I think the Mariners and the Mets are the two most owned teams on the slate.
Yeah, absolutely. Agree 100%.
You got any prize picks, underdog plays, anything that's still on the board? I mean, for these early games, you may not have much left, but maybe the later stuff.
Yeah, you may have. So like Max Fried was at 38.5 fantasy points. I think that's still up there. I took less than that. It's just a touch too high for me. I took Quintana less than 31.5 fantasy points. And I took Bryce Miller more than 5.5 strikeouts, over 17.5 outs, and more than 29.5 fantasy points. I think he got up to 30.5. And then for WNBA Blender, I know we're not talking about it, I did take what's her name? Not Sabrina Ionescu, Stewart. I took Stewart less than 45.5 fantasy points. Our projections have her around 40, Blender, and we know these guys have been doing a fantastic job. But I'm getting a 5-point discount here on the projection, so I took less than that. And then I also took less than 3.5 assists for the center from the Lynx. What is her name? Collier. I took less than 3.5 assists for Collier and less than 19.5 points. Somebody in the prop shop made a good observation or a good suggestion, and the projections are lining up with it. He was talking about taking the players that played in the Olympics and kind of taking unders tonight, because obviously they've been playing, and they're coming back. I'm not saying they will, but a lot of our projections line up with that ideology. So if you've got, I won't give out the whole kit caboodle, but if you've got access to our projections, you're a premium subscriber, you've got access to those WNBA projections, please go check them out. It looks like we have some advantages today, and hopefully they pan out for us. And Blender, you can even go check those out. I'm not sure if you have already, but the lines haven't moved too much, but we do have some some advantageous opportunities via projection comparisons, if you so choose to take advantage.
Yeah. I haven't been doing WNBA. I'm getting ready for college football though. Our college football projections last year, because I got into like by week 3 college football. It's like, okay, let me put in some college football stuff. Boy, you get in those early, you get wow.
Yeah, it's insane, isn't it? Like because sometimes the lines come out on like Tuesday for Saturday or like Wednesday, and so like sometimes they're like too high.
Some of these rushing props, they move like 26 yards. It's insane. It opens at 84.5 on like Wednesday morning. And I look at our projections. I take the under, right? And like by Friday, it's like down to 62.5. It's like I have under 84.5, and now it's at 62. And I mean, some of these things, they move so dramatically. The amount of CLV you get by the end is ridiculous. So yeah, if you're doing college football props, definitely use our projections. And you bet with anything, bet early, get the best price, get the best number, right? If you're doing college football props, unless there's some information change where, oh my God, this wide receiver is now out and no one knew about it until 10 in the morning on Saturday. You really shouldn't be taking props on Saturday morning, 10 a.m. for college football, right? The same way that you shouldn't be taking MLB props, 5 minutes before game time, because the lines are much more efficient by that time than overnight or even early in the morning. So I know I stressed this over. We both stressed this over and over and over and over again. That we have projections for like almost every sport. We have statistical projections that you could use for props. We have a prop tool that will sort them based on your major sports books or everything that is updated every 10 minutes. Same for the pick'em sites like Prize Picks and Underdog. So if you want to use all that, now you don't even have to need the DFS stuff. You could just get our props and pick'em package, which is cheaper, but get the whole combo premium package while you're at it and play DFS as well. And you get everything, right? Especially with coming back in September and October, you'll have all these sports going at the same time, which includes PGA and MMA and the college basketball. Also, we got cricket projections. If somehow you're playing, betting on cricket also, if you're in India, I guess it's popular there. So join us. Click on that link in the description. Get $40 off your first month. And we're getting bets is not the Dodger stack is going to be cheaper today because there's no bets. Okay, does that change? That, I mean, to me that makes it easier to play the Dodgers, but of course their total kind of goes down a bit. I'm still fine with the Dodgers.
Yeah, I'm still perfectly fine.
Yeah, did I want to play bets? Sure, but I have no problem. Now it's the Ohtani, Hernandez, Freeman. Gavin Lux, you play at second base and then figure it out from there. I mean, can you play 5K for Will Smith? Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, they're cheap pieces on the bottom of the order. Then, especially if you're playing them with the Tigers, I mean, it doesn't now you could play Jack Flaherty, right? When you don't have to put in a $6,200 Mookie Betts in there. So there you go.
Yeah, man. I think we're going to should be a fun little 4-game slate, Blender. I'm only playing one lineup, so I'm building. I'm mostly in single entry stuff, and then of course I throw that one lineup in the big GPP, Blender, because you just never know. Like,
you never know. You're right.
The stars align. I'd hate to take down all the single entry stuff and then don't make the 25K at the top of the big GPP. So I just I throw it in the $15 also, same lineup, and we'll see what happens. But I am feeling pretty good today, Blender. So I'm hoping that everything comes together for me and we can meet at the top of the leaderboard. Some people say, hey, I'm coming in first, you'll come in second. Guess what? I'll take the second. If I came in second every day.
Well, we ain't meeting there. You're playing Bryce Miller, and I'm playing the Tigers.
Well, there you go.
Right? It's going to be one or the other.
One or the other. Blender, and I'll say this, I know we got to close it out. I think this speaks to, interestingly enough, how we always try to, inform people. You and I play the same way. We just may approach the slate differently. But we play pretty much the same.
Right. I understand why you're playing Bryce Miller, and you understand why I'm playing the Tigers.
Exactly.
You're choosing the one side, and I'm choosing the other, and getting different in a different way. Right. That's it.
Yeah.
Hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door. Give me those thummy thumbs. Shake those thumbs and hit that like button. We got crunch time coming up in 50 minutes or so on the channel. You'll see the thumbnail and everything. So tune in for that. Obviously, there's a 3-game slate later today. I don't even know if we're doing a show for that, but there may be. I don't know. Look at the thumbnails on the YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell to always know when we go live. Tomorrow, I'll be on with Mike H3 Buddha. We'll be going over the UFC pay-per-view slate, which it's pretty. We got some pricey. We got some big favorites at high prices. We got a mid-price main event. It's a tough slate. It's a 12-fight slate as of now.
You say how many fights?
12.
12. Okay. Listen, Blender. Our UFC projections have also been really good for the pick'em sites. Oh my goodness. Weekends have never been the same, Blender, since we got that UFC stuff rolling out also. I mean, listen, our content team has just been spectacular across the board, and being able to put together things to help people, become more profitable. I couldn't be happier to come alongside all these great people and work for this company, man. It's been spectacular.
Right. If you also want to suck up, you could hit that like button also. Hit that.
Oh, that's not a suck up. I've been here too long for a suck up. Yeah.
Right. But but people do ask me, Will, they go, I know you're on RotoGrinders, but do you actually use like their stuff, or do you have your own stuff? It's like, no, I predominantly use all the tools and projections from RotoGrinders. Why wouldn't I?
Blender, if they could look at my screen to my right, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got 10, excuse me. I've got 10 tabs open, and I keep these tabs open for all day and all night unless I reset my computer. Right. The lineups page, the props and pick'em tool, the props and pick'em tool, and then every projections thing that I'm going to need. So the bat, the WNBA projections, like I keep all that stuff.
Are you spying on me, Will? Are you spying on me? You're describing all the tabs I have open on my second screen also.
Well, there you go. I mean, you want to know how to win? That's we pretty much told you everything you need to know. So
right. And then you go out and do it. That's all you need to do. So go and subscribe to RotoGrinders Combo Premium. Get $40 off your first month. Click on that link in the description to do so. And I'll be back tomorrow talking about all things you're thinking about in daily fantasy, props, and pick'em on RotoGrinders Today.